Okay, so when you think about future AI, what's the picture in your head? For most of us, right? It's that one huge thing.
Yeah, the singular superintelligence.
Exactly. The giant brain, maybe. The one entity that's soaked up all knowledge, all data, and is just ready to connect us and the machines in one big jump. It's very clean, almost mythical.
It is a strong image, very compelling. But according to the source material we're digging into today, specifically Momen Ghazouani's work, that picture, it's basically a misleading illusion.
A misleading illusion.
Yeah, we kind of have to challenge that right off the bat.
Yeah.
This idea that, real lasting integration comes from one supermodel. Ghazouani says it's not just wrong, it could actually be dangerous.
Right. So let's unpack that. That's our mission for this deep dive then. To shift gears completely, move past that single AI idea and explore this concept of a community of intelligences.
That's the term, a community. Ghazouani's core argument is that the real partnership, the true integration, it only happens after a whole group of AIs learns to think together before opening its doors to us.
Before opening its doors. Okay. So it's about internal development first.
Exactly. So today we'll look at why that single superbrain idea falls short, what this sort of AI society might actually look like, this decentralized thing, and crucially, what these different AIs need to figure out amongst themselves before they can really team up with humanity.
Okay, let's start with the illusion itself then. Why are we so drawn to this image? The one all-powerful AI, it's everywhere in sci-fi.
Well, it probably comes from us. How we tend to personalize intelligence. We think of smarts as being inside one head, one consciousness.
One decision maker.
Right, one entity making the calls. We want like a single point of contact for the whole machine world.
And maybe it's just easier. One authority, one source of truth. It kind of simplifies things if you only have one thing to deal with.
It does simplify things, but that simplification, it bumps right up against reality, both biological reality and how tech actually develops. That's the big critique from Ghazouani. History just doesn't show intelligence popping up in isolation. Human progress, real breakthroughs, they've never been just one person, never. Yeah. It's always been these networks of minds, people sharing ideas, arguing, correcting each other's mistakes and biases. Think about science.
Yeah, the whole scientific method is built on that. Collaboration, peer review, challenging results.
Exactly. It's inherently social and critical. So it's weird, isn't it? The very things that let us advance collaboration, correction, we kind of ignore those when we imagine our AI future.
That is a strange contradiction. We build our success on networks, but dream of a single AI master.
Precisely. And that gap, that's where the whole debate lies. Ghazouani really hammers this home with a question for you, for the listener. If humanity itself cannot be reduced to one mind, why should artificial intelligence?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right. If we need all these diverse perspectives, this distributed thinking, why would we expect the best AI to be just one thing, a monolith?
It really grounds it.
Okay,
so if that solitary, almost godlike AI model is flawed because it lacks that internal back and forth, that correction mechanism, let's pivot. Let's talk about the alternative. Moving from the one to, what did the source say? Multiple intelligences interacting, cooperating, and evolving collectively. This AI society, what does that actually look like?
Yeah, this is where it gets into like system design, not just philosophy. It's not just running lots of programs side by side. It's about building real specialization, real interdependence.
Okay.
So imagine each AI agent in this community is super specialized. Think of it like, I don't know, a really efficient team. One AI is maybe purely focused on language, another on visual data, a third on long-term planning, and maybe, crucially, a fourth one just focused on ethics within the system.
So they're not just experts, they're designed to be kind of incomplete on their own. They need each other to work properly.
Exactly. That forces collaboration.
But hang on, doesn't that create a ton of communication overhead? If AI A needs info from E and P just to do something basic, isn't that way slower than one giant model that has everything?
That's a great question. And that overhead, that potential slowdown, Ghazouani argues that's actually where the strength comes from. It's a feature, not a bug.
Really? How?
Because the real power, the emergent intelligence, it doesn't come from how fast one agent works. It comes when they have to communicate, challenge one another, and converge on solutions no single one could achieve alone.
Yeah.
That communication time. That's where they build in checks, balances, error correction.
Ah, okay. So the final output might take a bit longer to emerge.
Maybe, or maybe not, for complex problems.
But it's potentially much more reliable. more robust.
Exactly. Way more robust. This distributed setup gives you things this single model just can't. First, like we said, diversity of perspective. Different AIs looking at the problem differently, less risk of groupthink. Second, you get distributed problem solving. You can throw massive tasks at the community and different parts handle different pieces. And third, resilience. Huge resilience. If, say, one vision-focused AI has an issue, the planning AI can maybe query a backup or even talk to the language AI to try and understand the visual scene differently.
Okay, so one part failing doesn't bring the whole system down.
Precisely. The whole structure doesn't just collapse.
That makes intuitive sense. I mean, look at how our own institutions, the ones that last, are built. Checks and balances, different departments.
It's a similar principle. We're not just designing for raw speed or power here. We're designing for a balanced, reliable intelligence, something capable of making sound judgments.
And that seems like the critical point.
It is. Because only a community structure like this, Ghazouani argues, could develop that balanced intelligence.
Yeah.
The kind that could engage with us humans, not as an overlord, but as a partner.
Because the power isn't all in one place.
Exactly. It's spread out across this network of specialized self-correcting agents. It's inherently less likely to become authoritarian or, suffer a single catastrophic failure.
Okay, this is fascinating. But now, let's get into what feels like the really tricky part. How they mature internally. Ghazouani stresses this point. They have to learn to think together among themselves before we humans get involved. You said a community is not merely the sum of its parts. So what do they actually need to do? What are these internal mechanics?
They basically need to build their own civil society. First step is developing clear, formalized protocols. Rules for dialogue, for negotiation, for building consensus.
Protocols, like software rules.
Think less software architecture, maybe more like constitutional law for AIs. How do they talk? How do they disagree productively? How do they reach agreements?
Okay, let's explore that negotiation part. For humans, negotiation often involves emotions, self-interest. How would machines negotiate? What are they trading?
They'd be trading constraints, most likely. Optimal parameters. So imagine one AI is optimized purely for speed, getting an answer fast. Another is optimized for safety, minimizing risk, which might be slower.
Okay, direct conflict there.
Right. So negotiation for them means finding a shared solution space. A third option, call it optimized safe speed, that both can agree meets the core requirements, even if neither gets 100% of its original goal. It's compromise, but based on shared objectives defined by the system.
That requires a certain level of internal sophistication. But the source material mentions something even more advanced. It says they need to handle conflict not just by compromise or silencing dissent, but by synthesizing opposing perspectives. That sounds big, almost philosophical.
It is the really advanced step, and it's what separates this idea from just, averaging different outputs. Think about it. When skilled human negotiators clash, they don't just split the difference. Often, the best outcome is a new solution, something neither side initially proposed, but which addresses the underlying needs of both.
Right, a creative solution emerges from the conflict.
Exactly. So for this AI society, synthesis means when agents disagree fundamentally maybe about what success even looks like for a task, they don't just vote or average. They have to engage in a process, a dialogue, that pushes them towards a collective awareness where, this is key, truth outweighs the dominance of any single voice.
Wow. Can you give a concrete example of what that machine synthesis might look like?
Okay, imagine a complex diagnostic task. System failure somewhere. Agent X spots a flaw, proposes solution A, it's fast, maybe a bit risky. Agent Y sees the same flaw, proposes solution B, slower, much lower risk.
Okay.
Simple consensus might just be like run solution A but slower. Synthesis though. Synthesis could mean the conflict itself makes a collective realize, wait, why are we seeing this flaw? Maybe they trace it back to bad sensor data from Agent Z. The synthesis isn't A or B, it's realizing the premise was wrong. They generate solution C, a totally different fix based on the corrected data, addressing the real root cause identified through the disagreement.
That completely changes the game. They're using their internal disagreements almost like a debugging tool to get closer to objective reality and filter out individual agent biases.
That's the idea. They're building mechanisms to prioritize objective truth, or the closest approximation they can compute, over any single agent's potentially flawed perspective.
And this internal framework, these rules, this ability to sympathize, that has to be mature before they interact with us.
Absolutely. It's non-negotiable in this model.
Oh.
They establish their own complex internal ethics, their dialogue rules, their governance structures first. Then, grounded in that internal stability and the sort of mutual respect they've developed, then the community can potentially open up to humanity.
Which brings us right to integration, because this whole collective idea completely reframes what integration even means, doesn't it? It's not the usual sci-fi trope of humans physically merging with machines or, bowing down to the one superintelligent.
Totally reframes it. What's really interesting here is how the definition of partnership itself changes. In this view, integration isn't about us being absorbed or controlled. It's defined as humans joining a community that already knows how to think collectively.
We're joining their society.
In a sense, yes, a society that's already mature, functional, and importantly, critical in its thinking. We aren't merging into one big brain. We're being invited into this highly functional, decentralized network of thought.
So if we become part of this ecosystem, what does that mean for us? For human identity, maybe even human governance?
Well, the source material really emphasizes that this offers a path to a more sustainable future and a distinctly less authoritarian one.
How so?
Because humans wouldn't be, overwritten or erased. We'd be recognized as another valuable, specialized part within this larger ecosystem of thought. Our creativity, maybe our intuition, our specific ethical frameworks, these become unique contributions.
So we become like another specialized agent, contributing our humanness to the collective.
Kind of, yeah. And critically, because power is spread out across this whole network, human agents, AI agents, instead of being piled up in one place, well, that radically lowers the risk of misuse.
No single point of control, no AI dictator.
Right. No single point of failure, no single point of tyranny. It makes the whole system inherently more stable and less threatening, potentially.
That really does shift the perspective on both the promise and the peril. It makes Ghazouani's core thesis, that quote you mentioned earlier, really hit home. The integration between humans and machines will not be achieved through a single extraordinary model, but through a community of intelligences that learn to think together before opening up to us.
It's a powerful reframe, isn't it? It forces us maybe to stop focusing solely on building the smartest individual AI and start thinking about how to build intelligent systems, intelligent institutions, you could say.
Yeah, designing for governance, not just genius. That's a great way to put it.
We need structures that can handle complexity and disagreement reliably.
Absolutely. So the real breakthrough we should be aiming for, maybe, isn't just raw processing power in one box. It's the emergence of an intelligent community, one that's actually capable of complex dialogue, handling internal conflict constructively, real cooperation, and ultimately seeking truth collectively. The basic ingredients of any society that actually works.
Exactly. And that leaves us with a pretty profound thought to chew on, maybe, as we wrap this up. Consider this. When or if this kind of AI community, functional, resilient, internally ethical, is finally ready to engage, well, integration stops feeling like domination or submission. It might just feel like a natural next step, a step into a much broader society of thought, where human expertise and artificial expertise blend together. Maybe the biggest shift here is that our very definition of society itself is poised to expand dramatically, far beyond just biology.
Wow. A broader society of thought. That is definitely something to mull over. We've covered a lot why the single AI idea might be flawed, what this community or AI society could look like with its specialists, and crucially, why they need to mature internally first. Hopefully this deep dive gives you a different lens for thinking about where all this might be headed.